Thank you so much for coming. You may have expected a different talk, but I'm filling in for someone who had a change of travel plans, but it's still community. So it's how to get started and then maintain a community in tech. I have experience mainly with open source communities and communities at Red Hat. So I was at Red Hat for 10 years doing open source communities and digital community shirt here representing, and learned a lot about how to actually, build a community, get it started, and then maintain it, and then how to kind of like give some extras and keep people going for the long term. And now I'm with a company called Profian, and I'm their head of marketing. And so I'm kind of looking at things from a different angle where I'm actually joining communities and critiquing their style and trying to share some feedback, about like getting involved. Is it welcoming? Is it helpful? Is it? I think my big thing is sort of like, do people feel excited? So that initial rush of excitement and like I'm going to do something fun, and then how to maintain that over time, because of course that changes. So let's get started. I am going to use the acronym maintainers to help us remember how to do this. And like I said, we're going to talk about a plan to get started, a plan for maintaining, and then applying your unique style as a community manager or just someone that's part of that team, or maybe you're just involved in the community and you're going to give some feedback over time. So we're going to start with MAIN, main, and I like that this is the start. This word main introduces us to this foundation that we're going to build. So M is manualize, which is really all about documenting. So don't get started and say you're going to document it later. Don't get started and say that Harry is going to be taking the notes. I'm not really a note taker. Like, you need to be, Brian's like, I've been there. Yeah, definitely been there, right? Like, I'm the only person that takes notes. No, so documenting is huge, whether it's in a notebook, by hand, or in Google Docs or your favorite open source tool. Start writing down your process. And then you're going to make tweaks to that process along the way. Be ready for that. And this is going to help you be able to look back later and say, this is what we did, this is what we changed, this is who we are, really. You need like something to look back at. And then you're going to announce that. That's the A, is announce. Share it with your community as soon as you have something substantial. And in another talk, or if you want to contact me later, we could talk about more details about what actually goes in that manual, that documentation. That's like a whole nother talk, about what to put in there. But once you have that, share it with your community and get their feedback. Be open to what makes sense about this, what doesn't make sense about this, what labels have I used that seem off, or what are your ideas? What am I missing? Give people a chance to give you feedback, and that's the interview part, the I here, is talk with everyone in your community. Try to talk to everybody if you can. If you have, a community of hundreds of people, that might be kind of hard to do, but you could set up a survey where people can opt in and give you their feedback that way. Or you could set up individual interviews with folks. I know our community program at opensource.com, the correspondent program, has 10 to 15, sometimes 20 people, and so that's enough people for us to reach out to everyone individually and get their feedback. And the final letter in this is N for name. So be cognizant and aware of the names and the labels that you choose when you're either naming the program or naming the event that you're going to hold for the group. Really think about what resonates with this group of people depending on what they're doing in that community. So at opensource.com, it's a group of writers. So we named it the correspondent program because they're, kind of acting as reporters going out into the world, finding out the news and the things, and then writing about them or their own projects. Okay, so the next group of letters here is TAIN, and this is for maintaining the program. So tally is meant to represent, data. What data can you pull in from what you're doing, and then, tallying those numbers, figuring out what health means to your community. 20 could be a big number, 20,000 could be a big number. It really just depends, and health is going to look different for every community and at different stages of the community. And I feel like this is always one of those really hard parts where you don't have somebody just saying this is what health means. This is a healthy number. So you have to, in my experience, sit down with the committee that's organizing this community and talk through it. Where are we at right now? Maybe we're at 5 contributions, or maybe we're at 100 contributors to the code or to whatever it is that you're doing. And find out what that feels like to you. How are we doing? What does it feel like? And then where do we want to be? So you're going to try to just talk through the numbers and start somewhere with the health of the stats, basically, and then make sure that you're reviewing those consistently, whether it's weekly or monthly or, bi-monthly, just kind of depending on what the stats are. And then I already moved on to aggregate for the A. It's really telling a story for that data. So once you've pulled the data, what does it mean to you? And again, this is going to take some conversation. I feel like what I see a lot of times is people don't want to sit down and talk through the numbers. They just want you to tell them what the numbers are and is it healthy or not. But that really isn't the full story. You're going to need to, talk through, okay, well, Jane contributed this and it meant this to these people, and this is what happened next. So there's more of a conversation around the data. The I is for inviting your community to regular meetings and conversations. So not only are you going to have the conversation within your team about the data, but you want to share that with your community too. They actually are really interested in this kind of stuff. You want to do it in a way that doesn't make them feel like they're not doing enough, but you do want to. In my experience, it's really great to show them that you care that much, that you're putting that much time and effort into it, and that you are growing. That makes them feel really good. And again, narrate those stories and explain what the data means to them. Okay, and the last few letters is really around, so we have how to get started, we have how to maintain it, and this is like giving it that extra boost to keep people involved and engaged and excited. The E is for empower. So sharing with each person, hey, this is what you've done over the past 6 months, the past year. This is what it has meant to my team. This is what it has meant to the community. Maybe you bring in some data there, but it's really about empowering them to do more of what they're doing by showing them the impact that they're having. And then raise is kind of like a similar vein where you want to raise people up. I feel like there's a balance here where you don't want to only raise up people who are achieving a certain status. You want to find a way to raise everyone up, maybe at different times for different reasons. Make sure that you're not just highlighting your rock stars and your people who have a lot of extra time to contribute over people who really want to be there and they're doing the best they can. It might not be as many contributions as the next person, but they still care about being in that community. And I know that, with opensource.com at Red Hat, we've had this challenge where, we have a program built around people who are contributing a certain amount, because that is indicating that they really want to do this thing, and there needs to be a whole structure around that. But at the same time, still recognizing people who maybe contribute one time or two times, and that's what they can do, but they really care about doing that. So it matters to find a way to recognize all different levels of contributions. And then share, find a way to share it with the public, whether it's on social media or through meet and greets or, SIG groups on the weekends. Just find different ways to connect to the public and let them know that this is what we're doing, this is how it's doing, this is who is involved. And then that's going to, spread your net a little bit wider and allow people to hook in and say, oh, I'm interested in that. How do I get started? So again, this is all about communities, whether it's open source communities or just communities in tech in general, or communities, even on the broader levels.